Hello everyone, welcome back to K's Models. My name is Greg and today we are going to be taking a look at a brand new product from Golden Gate Depot, their 1948 20th Century Limited set. In this video we'll be going over the model, background history on the prototype, and then we'll be showing you running around the layout, so stick around. To start off with this review, let's go with a little bit of background history on the prototype. So, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to go mainly over just this iteration of the 20th Century Limited. 3 years after World War II ended, we started to see a uprising in popularity of the diesel-electric locomotive, as well as the demise of the steam engine. The New York Central, constantly wanting to show itself as a more modern railroad with up-to-date power, especially on its flagship run, the New York Central to Chicago route, they wanted to make this look as modern as possible. They wanted to look much better than their competitor, the Pennsylvania, who took the same route with their train, the Broadway Limited. So in 1948, New York Central looked to replace its previous version of the 20th Century Limited, which was built in 1938 with its famous Dreyfuss Hudsons, and replaced it with a new set, also made by Pullman, with this set. This set differed in that it had a pretty much inverted color scheme from the previous version, which was two-tone gray but with a thin dark gray band and mostly lighter gray on the body, whereas this new scheme had a thick light gray band with white pinstripes then surrounded by a darker gray. This train rolled out in 1948, also notably christened by then General Dwight D. Eisenhower, where it was also debuted with new diesel power. New York Central chose the EMD E7s as main power for these trains. Like the previous iteration of the 20th Century Limited, this consist was also a full Pullman train. This version of the train would also be made more famous by its appearance in films such as North by Northwest and The Bandwagon. This version of the train would be the final iteration of it, with no other changes being made besides the addition of a slumber coach, as we would also see on other trains such as Northern Pacific North Coast Limited. But other than that, the train would run until 1967, when it would eventually finally be taken out of service on December 2nd, 1967. As of today, most famously, the last part of the train that is still around is the observation car Hickory Creek, which is actually the observation car that you see in front of you right now. This car is currently owned by the United Railway Historical Society, where it is frequently seen on Amtrak excursions up and down the Hudson River, as well as sometimes to other areas of the United States. Alright, now let's delve into the model. Golden Gate Depot delivered this car in early 2023, and it was available in both an 8-car set and an add-on 4-car set. As with all other Golden Gate Depot 3-rail releases, these cars come from the factory with roller bearing trucks, flicker-free LED lighting, full underbody detail, add-on steps and grabs, many separately applied details, full interiors with figures and individually painted seats, tables, and all that fun stuff. They're made out of extruded aluminum. KD mounts are available, but come from the factory equipped with knuckle couplers, as well as many other fine details. The cars included in the set include a baggage RPO, 10-6 sleeper, 4-4-2 sleepers, club lounge, kitchen dormitory, diner, and 12 bedroom sleepers, and the observation. There are, of course, repeats of cars throughout the train in order to make it up to the 12 cars as per prototype. Now, this set in particular is a little bit unique in that it is actually a rerun. Not sure if this is a completely from the ground up tooling from Golden Gate Depot, but as we've been seeing recently, Golden Gate Depot has been rerunning a lot of its older sets with modern upgrades, which is a great thing to see, especially considering trains, especially some of their really earlier stuff like the 1938/40 20th Century Limited. It was a beautiful looking train, but it really didn't work all that well. It was very heavy, and a lot of my engines tended to struggle with it. This goes for other early releases. I guess maybe the 1937 Super Chief that they're rerunning. That is, I believe, a from the ground up new tooling. We also saw with the Olympian Hiawatha, which I did a review before. Not long after that I made that video, they announced a second run, which is a really good sign that their products are selling really well. I'm happy to see that, and hopefully that means we'll continue seeing great full-length trains like this in the future. Now, before they reran this, I did have the older version from the first run of this set, and I must say that this is a vast improvement over the original one. The original one, it was still a kind of early-ish Golden Gate Depot release, so it lacked a lot of the features that make the new ones really great. It didn't roll all that well. There were a couple details missing. One of the problems was on the car Brooklyn Bridge. That car notably had different trucks than the rest of the train. I forget the exact name of the trucks that it's missing, and also notably this train in this run also has the incorrect trucks. With the last run we were able to get the correct trucks from Golden Gate Depot and put them on ourselves, and hopefully we'll be able to do the same with this. Also on this set, like we saw on the Daylight, which came out right before this, this has the magnetic diaphragm feature. As you can see in the end of the cars, you can see that there are small magnets embedded into the diaphragms. And with those magnets, you would take these cloth diaphragms with metal ends, and you would slide them in between the cars. You see how it sticks? And you put it in like that. And what this does is it would give you the effect of a complete full train with no gaps, so that I guess passengers would be able to pass through without, like on the prototype. It would look like the train is much closer together than it really is. However, the issue that I've had with these is that the magnets aren't really strong enough to hold the diaphragms together, or it's either the magnets aren't strong enough or the cloth, there isn't enough material. As a train goes around a curve, when it first enters the curve, the rear car will stay straight, but the other car will swing out. That's just physics. And as a result, it's a lot of force put on that, and they pop apart. Now these diaphragms, they work really well on articulated cars. On the articulated cars on the Daylight and on the Rock Island Rocket, we had really good success with those because since the cars were articulated, they were only pivoting around one point, so they didn't have as much swing as they went around a curve. On a non-articulated car like this, there's way too much swing, and even on wide curves here, like as I'll show you right now, this is it going around an 091 curve, it still doesn't hold. And even if you have, and most people don't have curves this wide. Generally, everybody has about 072 or lower. I think 072 is the minimum for these cars anyway. So in cases like this, you got to really wonder, how wide of a curve do you really need for this to work properly? Now, I have been thinking of perhaps getting a little bit of paint and just painting over these, because I know I'm never going to use these diaphragms. So I was probably just going to paint over the magnets so that you can't really see them anymore. And they don't really cause any visual obtrusion when the cars are together. So while it is a feature if it's something you're looking for, if you have it on a shelf, like if you have the whole train out straight on a shelf, you could put these in and it will look great. But from an operational perspective, and I don't really have however long this train is, this train's massive, to display this whole train, I don't have a way to display it like that where I can put the diaphragms in. I just don't really see the benefit of the feature. It's not a feature that, it doesn't get in the way of operation, so I'm not going to say it's detrimental to the set. I guess it would be a gimmick. In this case, it's a gimmick. On articulated sets, I really like it, but in the case of normal cars like this, it's a bit of a gimmick. If you've watched my reviews before, especially on locomotives, one of the things that I pointed out a lot of times is that on engines that are from non-modern era engines, they should have headlights that are the correct tone. Now this was especially, I noted this on recent third rail products, as well as I believe the Lionel SD40s, and those engines were something. One of the things that I pointed out on a lot of modern models is that the LEDs that are put in them are too cool, as opposed to they should be a warmer white, like how you see the lighting inside of these cars. It's a warm, almost yellowish light, which is correct. These were from the era. That's the appropriate hue that you should be seeing in a car of this era. But on this car, you'll notice that on the observation, the drum head lights up a kind of almost bluish. And this is the one case that I can think of where this is correct. The real car, the drum head actually glows a bluish hue. I believe it was either fluorescent. I think it was either fluorescent or neon. For this car, that the bluish end is correct. And also the light on the top, that is a warmer white, which is also correct. So in this case, I applaud Golden Gate Depot for getting the colors right. Speaking of getting the colors right, the first release of this train, one of the biggest criticisms that people, notably me, had for that was the grays they had this greenish tint to them. And they didn't match the E7s that Third Rail put out at the time. Heck, they didn't match anything. And once you noticed it, it was kind of hard to look past. But on this train, thankfully, they remedied that. It doesn't have that weird tint to it anymore. The grays are very nice. And they also match those new E7s that Third Rail put out, I believe, a year or two ago. Throughout the entire train, there are separate add-on grabs and steps that you put on with little screws. This has been the norm for Golden Gate Depot sets for the past, I want to say, like 5 sets now. I think it first started on the Olympian Hiawatha, and we've been seeing it with releases ever since. The North Coast Limited has them, 38 Super Chief has them, Daylight has them, and this has them. Now, on the North Coast Limited, there was an issue on the RPO where the steps that were under the doors on the side of the car, they interfered with the swing of the trucks. And as a result, they wouldn't go around even wider curves. I couldn't get that car to go around 91 curves with those on. Of course, they were removable. You could take them off if you want, and that's what I did. Now, for this train, I ran into the same issue with that first door on the car. Those steps, they sit too far in and they interfere with the trucks. Now, of course, they would have sat pretty close in on the prototype because the prototype doesn't go around anywhere near tight enough curves that we see on our layouts. What we consider fairly wide curves in 3-rail O are still pretty tight curves in real life. So on this car, what I did was I just kind of bent them out a bit, and you'll see it on the cars. They do bend out quite a bit. That was something I did. I wanted to see how far out you would actually have to bend them in order to get them to go around 072, and that's the answer. If you don't prefer to do that, you could always just leave them off. They come from the factory with those off. This train also came equipped with separately applied steam hoses and air hoses, the same exact ones that you saw on the on previous releases. I didn't put them on this train because with previous releases, I think the Daylight was the one I had an issue with. Some of them would, those details would cause the couplers to hang up and cause the cars to derail, but that could probably just be remedied with simple bending. I just didn't do it for this train just to save myself a little bit of effort. One other issue with this train that was pointed out by Golden Gate Depot was the grab irons that you put on by yourself. Those have small screws that you screw into the body. Golden Gate Depot communicated that on some sets these were not tapped properly for the screws. On my set, I didn't have this issue. I was able to put everything on no problem. But I guess if enough people had that issue, I guess enough people had that issue to the point where Golden Gate Depot had to come out and communicate that. But they did provide clear instructions on what needed to be done in order to remedy this. And this was done like a week after these came out. It was very, very quick response by Golden Gate Depot. But I never ran into that issue with my set, so I'm not exactly sure how common or rare this issue is, as I can't speak for everybody. Overall, though, this set is phenomenal. It is a vast improvement over the original run, and I couldn't be happier to finally have a new run of this set out. So, once again, another great effort by Golden Gate Depot, and I say let's get into running it. Due to the size of my layout for running this, I usually shorten it down to about 8 cars. But when I did get this set, I did try all 12 cars at once. It takes up over half the layout. And 2 third rail E-units were perfectly capable of pulling this train. The old version of this train, it struggled with like 6 cars with some older E-units. So running wise, on top of looking better, these also perform infinitely better in my experience. You could get the older ones to roll really well. I know people that do have that older set, and with patience and lubrication, you can get those cars to roll well. But out of the box, these are great. Alright, so that about wraps it up for today's video. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more videos from me in the future. Anything that I missed or anything you'd like to know, please comment down below and I'll try to respond as best I can. So, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.